All right. That is 2-0. I like the sound of that. Let's stay undefeated for as long as is humanly possible. Welcome to the Knicks Film School Postgame show. It is your boy, Jonathan Macri, slowly but surely getting his voice back after I have abused it to no end over the last several days. I think I forgot the grind was like very real. And I am back in it right now. And yes, here we are to talk about a very interesting Knicks game. Ultimately a good Knicks game because every win is a good Knicks game. This tape of this game will not be mailed to Springfield, Massachusetts anytime soon. And that goes for both the Knicks side of the ball and the Celtics side of the ball. But it nonetheless, there was some beauty in the ugliness, I think it's safe to say. And again, it's early in the Mike Brown era. There's a lot of different directions that we could go for there's going to be a lot of different directions we could go for all of these early games because there's so much, it really is the ultimate Rorschach test. Whatever you were looking for, you were thinking about most entering this Knicks season is where you're going to kind of gravitate towards when you're analyzing and thinking about these games. For me, when I think about this game and I look at this game, I think it is a perfect mix of the old and the new. And what do I mean by that? So we heard before the game, obviously, that Josh Hart would be making his return in addition to Karl-Anthony Towns playing tonight. He was questionable again, second straight questionable designation, second straight game time decision, and second straight game that he ended up playing. So we knew Hart was going to be back. And yet, and I'm just seeing somebody's reporting that OG Anunoby said he is okay. I was going to get to OG in a bit. Seems like OG who had a little scare there, pulling up lame, that he's going to be all right. But we'll get to that in a bit. So Josh Hart back. Josh Hart not starting. And I don't think that was a surprise to anyone. I don't think anybody thought Josh Hart would start in his first game back or, for that matter, his 5th or 10th game back. I think Mike Brown made it pretty clear what he sees as Hart's role this season. What was interesting, however, is that with no Mitchell Robinson, Ariel Hukporti did not get the start. And we're going to get back to the number of minutes that Ariel Hukporti and Trey Jemison played combined tonight, same number as you and me. But it was Deuce McBride. So off the bat, this was shaping up to be the night that so many dreams came true. From the lineup that never could see the floor, inexplicably could never see the floor under the last head coach, to the lineup that got 6 minutes and change in the very first game, to now the starting lineup. And you want to talk about a very quick progression from, 0 to 80. It doesn't get much quicker than that. And I think in doing that, Mike Brown kind of told you what he is all about. And there's a lot, obviously there's a lot of things he's about. He's clearly about playing small. He's clearly about playing fast. He's clearly about putting up threes. But he is more than perhaps any of those things. He is about adjusting. And whereas in the last game against a Cleveland Cavalier team that boasts 2 7-footers, both of which have made all-star teams, one of which is the reigning defensive player of the year, we saw not only Ariel Hukporti starting the game, but Trey Jemison, a two-way player, playing 8 minutes in the game and playing well. Now enter Boston, the premier, even without Jason Tatum, the premier puts you in a blender team in the league. So what does Mike Brown do? He goes away from the big men. And in fact, he does not play any traditional centers at all, not 1 minute on this night. And he goes with Deuce as a starter, and lots of lineups where, every lineup was either Karl-Anthony Towns at the 5, Gershon Yabusele at the 5. We'll talk about him in a bit. Or briefly, again, OG Anunoby at the 5, which we saw a little bit in the last game. And I believe it was when OG was playing the 5 is when he got hurt. Not sure about that, though. So we start off this way, and the Knicks, of course, can't hit the far side of a barn. I said the phrase wrong again. I'll get it right one of these days. Anyway, they can't hit anything in the first quarter. And then in the second quarter, the shots start going down. Through it all, the process, the ball movement, the player movement, the pushing the pace, all of that stuff is still standing out big time. And it was even in the first quarter where they were not hitting shots, it was quality looks. You know, the stat that I wrote down, and I think it was the only stat that really mattered after the first quarter, was that the Knicks were down by only 8 points, and yet they were shooting 31% to Boston's 54%. So like they were like literally shooting almost half as well as the Celtics were shooting, and yet they were only down 8. Why was that? Well, it was because of their rebounding, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But second quarter, shots start going down. They go on this 17-0 run. And then in addition to the spacing that we saw in the first quarter and the smaller lineups that we saw in the first quarter and Deuce McBride starting at the top of the game, we get, again, another part of the new, which is trusting more than just your top level guys. And coming off of a season opener in which I had him as my 1-star player of the game, should it probably have gone to Mikal Bridges? Did Mikal Bridges play a better game on balance than Tyler Kolek against the Cleveland Cavaliers? Yeah. Bridges' defense was outstanding and he hit shots. He just didn't do it in a particularly loud way. I gave it to Kolek because I thought what Kolek, in his minutes, for his role, basically you couldn't do much better than Kolek did. So I gave it to him. And then that is followed by a second quarter in which Tyler Kolek, he may have come in late in the first, I forget, but for his stint in the first half of this game, Tyler Kolek was the best player on the Knicks. And that included making some incredible passes, which we've come to expect from him, made a nice bucket. But defensively, he showed you, hey, I'm not a pushover. And so the sum total of all of that is that the Knicks were up by 20 points at the half, and we were all ready to build a statue in honor of Mike Brown. I thought I was going to open the post game with the joke that, at this rate, Mike Brown should have come with a warning label that, if you still have an erection after 4 hours, please consult your doctor or check into a hospital or something, because it was, everything Knicks fans have been calling for, screaming for, wanting, begging for years. We were not only getting, but it was working. And it's like, in this first half, up by 20 in a first quarter in which they shot 31%. Can it possibly get better than this? And then we go to the third quarter. Starts off a little sluggish for the Knicks. 8-0 run from Boston. Timeout, Brown. Good timeout. Deuce, as he did 3 times in the season opener, makes a huge play. He made 3 huge threes in the season opener. He forced a great turnover here. And then the Knicks they build back up the lead. And then something interesting happened. The offense stalled. And it was a lot of the pressure that the Boston Celtics were putting on that backup unit with, I believe it was Kolek. Originally I have a couple different ones here. Originally it was Kolek, Shamet, Hart, Mikal, and Yabu. And then that eventually morphed into Kolek, Clarkson, McBride, Mikal, and Cat. But all of that, it was not working. And the Knicks were getting sloppy with the ball. And like this beautiful offense that we have already become accustomed to and been gushing about over the course of the preseason and over the first 6 quarters, suddenly it's like, where was it? It couldn't bring them out of this muck. Again, given just a little bit of pressure from the Boston Celtics. Thankfully, the Celtics, weren't hitting a ton of shots. Mostly that they just weren't hitting a ton of shots. So they could never fully get over that hump. But like, if this were a different team, this could have been a real danger zone. And so what happens in the fourth quarter? How do the Knicks bring this one home? That's where we get to the old. And we get to Jalen Brunson being Jalen Brunson and doing Jalen Brunson things. The reigning clutch player of the year takes 7 shots in the fourth quarter, makes 4 of them, takes 4 free throw attempts in the fourth quarter, makes 3 of them, goes for 12 points and 1 massive 3 that was, for all intents and purposes, the nail in the coffin. So we got a classic Jalen Brunson performance. Now, were there times where we were watching the offense in the fourth quarter where Jalen Brunson was doing the exact thing that Mike Brown said, like, the Knicks were not going to continue doing, which was basically holding the ball until there were like 8 or 9 or 10 seconds left on the shot clock? Yeah. Did he pay the price for that a few times? Yeah. Was it a reminder that this changeover to the new style of offense, in which, you know, there are times where it's the beautiful basketball, but there are also times where Brunson's going to have to do a little bit of heavy lifting? It's a reminder that it's going to take a while to fully get in. That's going to take a while to fully get indoctrinated. Brunson's always going to be able to do Brunson things, but to be able to blend that stuff with the higher pace and with the movement and all that, it's going to take time. But thankfully, Jalen Brunson, one of the best basketball players alive, and he helped bring us home. The other old part that came up big tonight, and he did not shoot the basketball well tonight. I do not think he made a basket. I will double check that right now. He made 1 basket and he had 7 misses. And some of those misses, including the last one, which I think was closer to hitting Joe Mazzulla on the Celtics bench than it was to going in the hoop. So didn't shoot well. But Josh Hart reminded you that he is one of the most impactful basketball players alive. And the Knicks, I know they were up by 20-something points in this game. I know the final score, they ended up, winning by 10. I do not think the Knicks win this basketball game without Josh Hart's rebounding. He had 14 total rebounds in just under 19 minutes, including 6 on the offensive glass. And when I tell you he had some absolutely massive boards in this game, I was trying to write them all down midway through the fourth quarter, just before it was what ended up leading to a Jalen Brunson tough 2-pointer. Hart got a tough rebound on the defensive glass. Actually, I don't even think he was credited with the rebound, but he was the one responsible for keeping the ball in play and keeping the ball alive, not letting a Celtic get it. Cat got the rebound. Another great rebounding game from Cat. We're going to get to Cat in a second. And then that led to JB's tough 2. But earlier in the fourth, Hart had 2 offensive rebounds on 1 play. That was right before OG got hurt. Like, the number of times where they just needed a rebound and Josh Hart was there to get it, I thought, I lost count of them, but 14 rebounds in total. Now, because it's Josh Hart, and because the Josh Hart discussion can never be simple, will there be viewpoints that, like, hey, yeah, sure, the guy was all over the glass, but like, with what he's given back on the other end, where as of right now, he can't hit anything. Is that worth it? And I would offer that, and we saw it tonight, there are other ways that Josh Hart can impact an offense. I will say, though, look, we know he's dealing with a finger issue. Didn't look great tonight. I am willing to give Josh Hart the appropriate level of runway to figure out how to be something resembling a credible shooting threat with this finger. There may come a point in time where it is just too onerous for him to overcome, and then it's a different conversation. But his first game back, First time shooting a basketball in a game since, the second game of the preseason. I don't even know if he shot the ball in his 7-minute stint then. But I want to give him some runway. I want to see what he could do with a little bit more time. And if he could figure out a way to shoot it with that bandage on his hand. So that's the old. We got the old. We needed the old to win, but we also got the new. And the new was great. Let's go through some other things of note before we turn it over to the super chats here. Karl-Anthony Towns, a classic cat game. A classic cat game in which you could say, and I might say that Cat, you could argue Cat was the best Knick in this game. You could. His 3-3-pointers were the only thing that kept the Knicks afloat in the first quarter. He got, again, a lot of tough rebounds, 13 rebounds in total, had 3 assists, had some really nice passes. And even though, there were some shots that you'd like him to make that he didn't make, and there were some turnovers that you would like him to not make that he did make, 5 in total. Like, in short, it was the full Karl-Anthony Towns experience. Which we were reminded of is there's never a dull moment. It's always something with Cat, but that's Cat. He bridges some tough looks towards the end there, missing some shots that you would like him to normally make, but otherwise he continues to play pretty outstanding defense. OG Anunoby, we talked about him, struggled a little bit from the field after a great game 1. It's okay. Defense, yet again, very good. Deuce McBride. Let's talk about Deuce. So, as it always is with Deuce, it's not totally about the what he does individually. It's about what he does just being out there and his impact just being out there. And again, it wasn't always pretty with this group. The lineup data for the night for New York's starting 5. In 11 minutes and 39 seconds, they were outscored by 1 point, 23-24. Shout out to our friends at Pivot Fade for that. But you still like the look of it. You like the look of it. You like the feel of it. It made sense. You want to see more of it. Will we get more of it? Well, clearly we're going to get more of it because Mike Brown could have very easily started Ariel Hukporti tonight, and he did not, right after starting him in the last game. So clearly we're going to see more of this lineup. And defensively, was Deuce the best Knick defensive player of this game? I think he probably was. He had some competition for that, but I would say that Deuce was the best defensive player. And again, the Knicks won this game with defense. Boston missed some shots, but the Knicks won this game with defense. I'm trying to see if he had 1 steal and then the defensive play of the game. Deuce McBride's block on, I forget who we blocked, but it was the fast break opportunity that the Celtics had in the fourth quarter. You could sense that there was going to be a momentum shift if they had made a basket there. Deuce got the big block, go down the other way. Cat, couple of tough offensive rebounds, got the Moses Malone shout out from Stan Van Gundy. And then right after that, again, arguably the biggest shot of the game, not the nail in the coffin or anything, but the deep 3 from Cat that made it 87-72. Felt like it gave the Knicks the breathing room they needed to kind of bring it home. So again, overall good game from Cat, maybe the best player. Talked about Hart. Solid Clarkson minutes. You can tell he's still finding his way. Talked a lot about Kolek. Landry Shamet, quiet game tonight overall in 13 minutes. And then Yabusele. Hit a shot, which is good. It's nice. Yeah, I think it was a 3, actually. Yes, it was a 3. Both shots he took were 3s. Made one of them. That's good. I don't really know how to say this other than to just kind of come out and say, if you're a professional basketball player and you are expected to, and you're getting minutes for a team that has designs on winning an NBA championship, you got to be in shape. You just do. And me and DJ touched on it in the last show, and DJ is the one who kind of pointed it out when the Knicks put out his listed weight. look, I got a text from someone who was at the game tonight, and they're like, however bad it looks on TV, it's worse in person. There was some other things said in that text. I won't repeat, but yeah. So look, is this the sort of thing where he's going to need to just play himself into shape over the course of the season? I guess. But when you are dead to rights, anytime someone has you one-on-one and you cannot move laterally with that offensive player, that's a problem. I feel bad singling him out, but like, team gave you $10 million this summer, and they did it in the beginning of the summer. And yeah, the whole summer to kind of get yourself ready. And it just, forgive me for saying this, it does not look like he's ready. I think that's it. I mean, I have some other notes and stuff here. Great job as a team rebounding. I singled out Cat and Josh Hart individually, but the Knicks as a team out rebounded Boston 53-37, which if you're going to beat Boston, A, you got to either hope that they miss threes, or B, you got to out rebound them. Tonight, both things happened. 45 threes for the Knicks attempted. They hit 37.8%. Both of those dogs will hunt any day of the week. Overall, the Knicks shot very poorly tonight. They shot 38.4% from the field. Felt like they missed a lot of easy looks, or a lot of looks that they would usually make. Hopefully those will start to go down. Again, we talked about they got very sloppy with the ball, in part because of Boston's pressure in the third quarter, in part because they were just sloppy with the ball. 20 turnovers, that number is obviously not going to cut it. Want to be more like they were in the last game. If you're around 14, 12, 13, 14, you live with that. 20, you don't live with that. That's not okay. And then the last thing, again, to end where I started with the new and the old. How's this for new? New York, 15 fast break points. The Boston Celtics, 2. That's more than the margin of difference in the game. So if you want to say the Knicks won this game on the break, I think you could say that the Knicks won this game on the break. Look, really nice win. You got to win the ugly games just as much as you do have to win the pretty games where everything is going well. Just to zoom out one sec before we get to Super Chats. The excitement, I didn't. We were all excited before game one. Maybe a little nervous, but mostly excited. And there was absolutely a world where, depending on what we saw, that excitement could have dissipated and could have lessened. For me, my excitement has now grown. And my excitement has grown because it is very, very clear. And look, I know the old coach is going to come up tonight. I may have even gotten a glimpse at a super chat from an old friend of mine. And look, there's no escaping it. There's no escaping it. It's like the patriarch, longtime patriarch of a family that departs, and it's like his aura, his presence kind of hovers over the whole thing because you were just with it for so long. When you do things one way for as long as this organization did, and then you knew what those ways were going to be, and you kind of had to accept the fact that it was like, all right, well, it's either going to work or it's not going to work, but we know what we're going to get. And was there a value in that stability? Obviously, there was a value in that stability. One conference finals, 2 conference semifinals, another out of nowhere playoff berth. Obviously, there was some value in that. But sometimes to reach a new ceiling, you got to take chances. And the chance that they took was on someone who was going to come in, and for all of the ways that he is different from the man whose job the man he replaced, the unpredictability, the willingness to go with the flow, the reacting to what is happening, and, not being tied to any tenets other than I'm going to make the decisions I need to make to try to win the basketball game. Now, Mike Brown obviously will not be judged after 2 games. He will not be judged after 22 games. He will not be judged after 82 games. He will be judged after some number of games after that. So, but so far, listen, all you can do is play the teams on your schedule, and all you can do is play the games that are in front of you right now. And the Knicks are doing that, and they're doing it pretty well. A lot of great stuff.